My daughter is 11 going on 12, and her birthday is coming up in a few weeks. For her birthday, she wants to go swimming, so we rented the local community centre that has a pool and a giant activity room where we'll have lots of treats and stuff. We asked her to make us a list of invitees so we can get everything coordinated. She asked if she could just invite her whole class of 20 or so kids. It's a big activity centre with lots of room, so we said that was fine. So she goes to the kitchen and about 10 minutes later comes back with her classmates' directory. Her school puts together a small binder that lists the names of the students by each class, the names of the parents, and a phone number and/or email address. She hands it to me and I quickly noticed that 3 names have been crossed out. I asked why, and she said those are the ones she doesn't want to invite. I started asking her other questions like if they had an argument or if they were mean bullies, etc., and she maintained that no, she just thought they were strange and didn't really like them. I told her that she can't just invite the whole class with just 3 exclusions. She just kind of looked at me and said it's her birthday. I explained that this could be hurtful to them and that if she was so staunchly against them attending, then it would be better to have a smaller party and invite just a handful of her closest friends. She said she doesn't want a small party, she wanted a big party, and I told her then everyone in the class is getting an invitation. She said no, they aren't, and I told her, okay, then no one is, and she ran out of the room crying. She has started crying and running away whenever she has seen me since, and I'm starting to feel guilty. My wife was frustrated with me and says that she gets where I'm coming from, but it is our daughter's birthday, and she should only have the people she wants there. I tried to explain that I don't want our daughter to be a reason these 3 kids have a crappy time in school. I can't in good conscience let her exclude other kids like this. Am I the jerk here? My wife says all we need to worry about is our daughter having a fun birthday, and I'm already ruining it by picking a fight over something no one will remember years down the road, but I don't agree at all. If they were bullies, that would be one thing, but they aren't, so to me, it's cruelty, and cruelty sticks with people. Update. Thanks for reading. Glad the final verdict is that I am not the jerk here. We talked again this morning and asked her more specifically about her feelings towards the 3, and it's really nothing serious like people were suggesting, but I thought it was important to make sure just in case. I asked her to put herself in their shoes. What if one of her classmates was having a party and invited everybody except her? How would she feel? This is the approach I admit I should have tried in the first place, and it worked. She gets it. I explained that's why she can't invite the whole class except for just 3 people, because at that point, it's a class affair. I reiterated that she could still have a small party with just her close friends, but she said she wanted to still have a big party and everybody is invited. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot. Everyone cannot be invited to everything. Your daughter should not be forced to invite people she is not comfortable with to her birthday party. She is old enough to decide who she wants to spend time with. If she was 6 years old, absolutely invite the whole class. But she is nearly a teenager. Also, maybe there are issues between them that she does not want to tell you about. Comment 2. I can understand your point. However, speaking as someone who was ostracized as a kid, I can tell you that I would rather not be invited as opposed to being invited out of obligation. You are not doing the uninvited kids any favors because it will be painfully obvious that they really are not welcome. Now for the update, after the heart-to-heart things seem to settle down. My daughter took the advice to heart and decided to invite the entire class, including the 3 kids she initially wanted to exclude. I was proud of her for making that choice, and it seemed like we were on track for a drama-free celebration. The following week, my wife and I got busy with the party preparations. We sent out the invitations, and RSVPs started coming in. Most of the class was able to make it, including the 3 kids who were almost left out. My daughter seemed genuinely excited, and I was relieved that we had navigated past the potential issue. As the party day approached, my daughter's behavior towards the 3 kids didn't change much at school, but she wasn't unkind either. She just treated them neutrally, which I guess was the best we could hope for under the circumstances. I had a brief chat with their parents when they called to RSVP, just a general talk about the party details, and they seemed nice and appreciative that their kids were included. The day of the party finally arrived, and the community centre was buzzing with excitement. Kids were splashing in the pool, the activity room was decked out with decorations, and the treats were a hit. My daughter was having the time of her life, laughing and playing with her friends. I kept an eye on the 3 kids, and they seemed to be enjoying themselves too, though they stuck close to each other. Halfway through the party, I noticed my daughter talking to one of the 3 kids, the one she had seemed the most wary of initially. They were away from the noise near the snack table, and it looked like a serious conversation. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but they both seemed earnest. After a few minutes, they shook hands, and my daughter came back to join the others. The kid went back to his 2 friends, and they whispered among themselves before rejoining the festivities. The rest of the party went off without a hitch. Kids were tired but happy, and parents came to pick up their little ones, thanking us for a great time. The 3 kids were some of the last to leave, and their parents thanked us again, mentioning how much it meant for their kids to be included. After everyone had left and we were cleaning up, my daughter came up to me looking thoughtful. She said the party was awesome and thanked us for making it happen. Then she mentioned the conversation she had with the one kid. She didn't go into details but said they had cleared up a misunderstanding from earlier in the school year. She seemed content with how things turned out. That night, as I tucked her into bed, she was smiling, but she had a distant look in her eyes. I asked if everything was okay, and she nodded, saying she was just thinking about school and friends. I didn't press further, figuring she needed to process the day's events on her own. The next day my daughter went off to school as usual. When she came home, she was quieter than normal. I asked her how her day was, and she said it was fine, but she seemed distracted. Later I overheard her on a call with one of her friends talking in a hushed tone about the party. I couldn't make out much, but there was a sense of urgency in her voice. That evening, my wife and I received an email from the school. It was a general notice about an upcoming assembly to discuss the importance of inclusion and kindness. The timing seemed more than coincidental, and I wondered if the party had sparked a broader conversation among the students or the staff. As the week drew to a close, my daughter spent more time in her room, sometimes with the door closed. She was polite at meals but less chatty than before. I respected her space, figuring she was dealing with the complexities of preteen social life. On Sunday, I noticed her looking at the class directory again, the same one she had used to make the party list. She had a thoughtful expression, and she was flipping through the pages slowly. I asked if everything was all right, and she just nodded, saying she was thinking about who she might want to work with for an upcoming class project. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but feel that something was shifting. The party had gone well, but the aftermath was more complicated than I had anticipated. My daughter was growing up, and with that came new challenges and lessons about relationships and actions. I hoped we had guided her well, but only time would tell. The next morning, I found a note on the kitchen table from my daughter. She had left early for a school project meeting. The note was simple, thanking us for breakfast and reminding us she'd be home late. But at the bottom, there was a postscript that read, "I think I understand more about people now. Talk later." I folded the note and put it in my pocket, wondering what she had learned and what she wanted to discuss. It was clear that the birthday party was more than just a celebration. It was a turning point, and the ripples were still moving through our lives. Now, for the comments. Comment 1. Hey there, it sounds like you handled a tough situation with a lot of empathy. It's not easy to teach kids about inclusivity, especially when they're at an age where they're forming complex social relationships. You did the right thing by talking it through with your daughter and helping her see the impact of her choices. It's a valuable lesson that will serve her well in the future. Comment 2. I think it's important to keep the lines of communication open with your daughter. She's clearly going through a lot of emotions and reflections post-party. Maybe sit down with her and ask if she wants to talk about anything she's learned or how she's feeling. It's a great opportunity to deepen your relationship and understand her perspective. Now, for the next story. My late grandpa started his farm while he was in his early 20s. There were financial problems along the way, but it became successful, and he became rich. My late grandma, who died last year, grew up in an average working-class home. My parents come from wealthy families and went to private schools and Ivy League colleges. My mother and father always wanted 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. I'm the youngest out of 3 girls, and my parents were desperately hoping their last child would be a boy. But since I was a girl, they were resentful to me and didn't show any love to me. I was pretty much treated like Cinderella. Because my parents showed resentment towards me, my sisters did too, and I was bullied by them and they got away with it. We were treated differently as they both went to private schools, private colleges. They were also allowed to do whatever they wanted and eat whenever they wanted. I went to a public school, public college, and I was only allowed to eat 3 meals a day. I don't mind going to a public school, but I'm just trying to show how I was treated differently. On the weekends, I was shipped off to my grandmother's so they could have family time. At age 12, I asked my grandmother if I could live with her, and she agreed. As soon as she asked my parents, they immediately said yes and started packing my bags. While going to my grandmother's on the weekend, she made me work on the farm. Even when living with her permanently, she continued to make me work on the farm on weekends. I hated that I had to work on the farm, and looking back now, I realized why she made me do it. She made me work on the farm as a form of therapy, as I was constantly arguing and her animals were my therapy. I remember spending most of my days sitting with the horses and feeding the chickens. I also spent a lot of time running across her fields. My grandmother sadly passed away last year, and she left the whole estate to me, which my family wasn't pleased about. I decided to leave my job as a lawyer and work full-time on the farm, and I'm so much happier. When my grandmother was alive, she also used part of her fields for wedding venues and events. She also allowed charities to have events on her farm free of charge. 2 months ago, my sister got in contact with me after 4 years of no contact and said she's engaged. She asked me if she could use Grandma's field as a wedding venue, as she would like to get married there. The thing is, I can't let go of the past and I have started therapy, but I told her I need some time to think about it. My first thought was to charge my sister a price for the venue and make it a price she couldn't afford, but it didn't feel right, so I simply said no. Now she's passed my number on to my parents and my other sister, and they're all saying this is my grandmother's farm and she should be allowed to get married on the farm, and I should even do it for free. My emotions are pretty high right now and I need to know if am I the idiot. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. Tell them if they wanted the privileges of being your family, they should have treated you as a loved family member from the start, rather than an unwanted burden. They didn't want you in their lives then. You don't want them on your property now. Comment 2. Not the idiot. This is not Grandma's farm, this is your farm and your home, a home that has provided you with a safe place for years. It's up to you how you use your home and who is welcome. Now, for the update. It's been a week since I last posted about the situation with my sister wanting to use Grandma's farm for her wedding venue. A lot has happened since then, and honestly, it's been a mess. After I said no to my sister, my parents started bombarding me with calls and texts. They were relentless, trying to guilt-trip me into changing my mind. They kept saying things like, it's what Grandma would have wanted, and families should stick together. It was exhausting, and I felt like they were trying to manipulate me just like they did when I was younger. I tried to ignore them, but it was hard. They even showed up at the farm one day unannounced. They started going on about family and how I was being selfish by not letting my sister have her dream wedding on the farm. I lost it. I told them that they had no right to talk about family when they hadn't treated me like part of theirs for years. I reminded them of how they shipped me off to Grandma's every weekend and how they let my sisters bully me. They didn't have much to say after that, and they left, but the look on their faces was one of shock and maybe a little bit of shame. My sisters, on the other hand, took a different approach. They tried to sweet-talk me into it, saying how much it would mean to them and how it could be a fresh start for all of us. But I could see right through it. They didn't care about making amends. They just wanted what they wanted. In the midst of all this, I've been trying to keep up with the farm work and my therapy sessions. My therapist says that I need to set boundaries with my family and that it's okay to say no. She's been helping me work through my feelings of resentment and abandonment. It's been tough, but I'm starting to feel a little stronger each day. Then a couple of days ago, something happened that I didn't expect. My oldest sister called me, and for the first time it felt like she was actually being genuine. She apologized for how they treated me growing up and said she understood why I didn't want to let them use the farm. She said she's been doing some thinking and that she wants to try to have a real relationship with me, not just because of the wedding, but because we're family. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to believe her, but another part of me was scared of getting hurt again. I told her I needed time to think about it, and she said she understood. So now, I'm left with a lot to process. My parents are still angry with me, and my other sister is still trying to convince me to let her have the wedding on the farm. But now there's this possibility of reconciling with my oldest sister, and I don't know what to do. I'm happy on the farm, and I don't want to ruin that, but I also wonder if there's a chance for my family to heal. It's a lot to deal with, and I'm not sure where to go from here. My emotions are all over the place, and I feel like no matter what I decide, someone is going to get hurt. It's like I'm stuck between wanting to protect myself and wanting to believe that people can change. I guess only time will tell what happens next. Now for the comments. Comment 1. Hey there. I can't imagine how tough this must be for you. Have you thought about what boundaries you'd need to set to feel comfortable with your family? It's okay to protect your peace. Maybe consider a heart-to-heart with your oldest sister to see if her apology is sincere. Comment 2. You've been through a lot and it's clear you're strong for standing your ground. Trust takes time to rebuild, especially with family. If you're open to it, maybe start with small steps towards reconciliation with your oldest sister. Your well-being comes first, so take it at your own pace. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.